Now I'm gonna show you a way that you can make a stock or a bone broth, but I don't want you to be confused. All right. Now the French tell you to do it one way. You take 50% onion, carrot, celery. We're not doing that because, like I say, we got a little French in us, but we're not cooking like that. Not today. So if you work in a French restaurant, that'll be different. Now, all I did the other day was I cleaned and deboned 1, 2, 3, 4. Tell me that you love me more. I did what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Why I can't count? 2, 4, 6. All right, them suckers good. So I deboned 6 chicken thighs, and I roasted them in the oven with the chicken that I cooked. You can look at the other video, and that's fine. But I roasted them in the oven just to give them a little color. Now I'm gonna make some stock. Now you see this pot? This is called a stock pot. It's called a stock pot. Now I'm gonna show you something. This pot been on the bottom right here. That is a thick bottom stock pot. So the good thing about this stock pot is you can cook a lot more food in it and don't have to worry about it scorching because the bottom of that stock pot is thick. Now we have other stock pots and the bottom of them stock pots are not thick. They're real thin. They're real thin. So if you're doing like a soup or something like that, it's okay to use a tin bottom stock pot. If you're making a stock, it's okay to do a tin bottom stock pot. But if you're cooking grits, belly busters, known as red beans, things like that, you don't want to use a tin bottom stock pot. You want a thick bottom. And you'll be able to tell a difference, okay? No. So what I like to do is I like to keep it simple. And you can do a vegetable stock or broth. And what you do for that, you just take any vegetables that you have and you add them to this water. And what that's going to do is it's going to flavor the water with a vegetable flavor. That's all a stock is. Now, you could take seafood, like you could take crab shell, you could take lobster shell, you could take shrimp shell, crawfish shell, and you put that in some water and you let it simmer and it'll do the same thing. It'll make the water taste like that item. Now, the one thing I do like to do, I like to add all of this to cold water. And then what I do is I get this water hot fast because I make stock at least a gallon or 2 gallons, depending on what I'm cooking. But see, when I cook like gumbo, I'm gonna have maybe 5 pounds of shrimp shell, and I'm gonna fill this pot up with those 5 pounds of shrimp shell. So what I want you to know is when you make stock, do not be afraid to have less water. So like, let's just say you want to make 1 gallon of stock. Say you want to make 1 gallon of gumbo. So you're going to need 1 gallon of stock. Now you could go to the store and you could buy all that stuff in a jug. I don't recommend that because this is a better way to do it. Now, as far as flavoring the stock, you know, the French people tell you don't do that. Now I've seen people, they take and they'll add some of this bay leaf to it. They'll add bay leaf to that. And then, you know, I know people, I know a lot of Cajuns, I know a lot of Creole. And you know what they do? They'll add some of this to that liquid. Papa Earl, Cajun two step, they'll add all of that to that liquid to flavor it. And some people just stick with sal. What in the world is iodized sea salt? We don't eat that in this house. I'm gonna have to get on sous chef for buying that garbage. But anyway, so you don't have to add any seasoning to this liquid. Now you saw I only had 6 bones. So I'm not gonna try to make 1 gallon of stock with 6 bones. It just don't make no sense. Now I could put these chicken. Now you see how that's starting to get hot? I'm fine with that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this fire down to low between number 2 and number 1, because you do not want this to boil. Because if it boils, you loses all of your water. You lose all your stock. It evaporates. So you want this to be on a very low heat. Now, if you don't have a lot of time, you could cheat. You could put it in a crock pot and just let it cook in that crock pot covered all night. But in most kitchens, we got what's called a soup kettle. And as you working, you'll throw the bones in that soup kettle. As you're working, you throw the bones in. As you're working, you throw the scrap onion in. As you're working, you throw the tomato in, the celery, all those little bits and pieces of vegetables that we don't eat, we throw that in the stock pot, the soup kettle. Now, because I roasted these bones, it's going to give that stock a darker flavor, and that's fine. And if you're trying to get into stocks, I want you to do it small first, because if you do it small, it's going to help you to have more confidence. Now, when this stock is ready, you can take all the bones out, and then you could even season it to make it a broth. The difference between stock and broth is a broth is a finished stock. How is it finished? It's finished with seasonings. But there's nothing stopping you from seasoning this liquid right now. But I want you to start small so that you can learn how to do it. Now, if you peel some shrimp, save the shells. A lot of Cajun Creoles, they use the shrimp head. They use the shrimp shells. They put that in this pot. They fill that pot up with water, and they leave it on low number 1, low number 2, somewhere in there. I like to just heat my water up first, and then I turn it down low, because I don't want it to be in a time temperature danger zone, even though you don't have to worry about it. But when I'm ready, I'm going to just get this, and I'm going to scoop all them bones out. Feed that to the dog. Now, I don't want to hear nothing about the dogs and chicken bones. I'm telling you right now. But this is an easy way to make an easy stock that has a lot of flavor. Now, you do not want this to boil, because you won't have nothing left. Now, say you're done with your stock and you check the flavor, it's where you want it. You take all the bones out. You could cook it down more and let it evaporate more, and then that'll make it even more concentrated of whatever you're using. In this case, I have chicken bones. So to give it more of a chicken flavor, because the water is diluting, it's not diluting, but it's evaporating, which makes that flavor even that much more concentrated. So this is just a simple way to make a stock. I would cook this a minimum of 3 hours, a minimum. Now if I'm doing stock for gumbo, it's better to do it overnight. You could even do it in batches, where you freeze it, you cook it, you put it in the right dish, cool it down, put it in the freezer, make ice cubes out of your stock. And then that way, when it's time, you just crack them in a pot and you're ready to roll. So you can make it in advance. You could. And it's better if you make it in advance of the dish you're cooking. If I was cooking gumbo today, this line would be up to here somewhere, because this is a 2-gallon pot. 4 quarts is 1 gallon. This is an 8-quart stock pot. When I cook my red beans, white beans, black beans, pinto beans, lima beans, butter beans, I'm going to stop that. When I cook all those beans, I take 1 pound of beans and I put my water to this rivet right here. And I never have to add water to my beans. But I use this pot a lot, probably 300 times a year. So this is a faithful pot. It's an 8-quart stock pot with a thick bottom. Get your mind out the gutter. I'm telling you right now. Thick bottom stock pot. I cook grits in it, and I don't ever have grits stuck to the bottom of the pot. You got to know how to cook too. But anyway, but this is just a way to make a stock. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make. I'm gonna just stop recording right now, and when this is ready, I'm gonna show you the finished product. Okay? So stay tuned. No, if you look at the clock, it's 4:48. I forgot all about this, to be honest. I ran a few errands. I'm just getting back to the house. But you see our chicken stock, our broth. And my purpose of doing this was only because that's all I had. by way of bones, you know. So now if you real country, you can take all of the meat off those bones if you want. I'm not doing that. But if I was in a survival situation, I really would. But you can see the color of that broth is nice and deep and rich. And I'm going to just use this to cook some ramen, you know. So that's enough seasoning in itself to flavor the ramen. But that's the whole concept behind bone broth, chicken stock, or broth. Now, you can give that meat to the dog or you can eat it yourself. Not bad. Not bad at all. Look, right there, watch this. Nice. Nice. Can't have nothing, boy. Coco. I'm going to just give Coco a knuckle. Coco. That's all you getting, greedy. You ain't even chew that. All right, so that's a little bit about stocks, bone broths, etc.